So now we're ready to move to Indonesia, where they are taking baby steps towards MLE.
Thank you very much, and thank you for this opportunity to share with you today on the topic 1 hour per week in the mother tongue can make a difference, the case of the Moma and Tado speaking communities of Central Sulawesi, Indonesia. I work for SIL International. Oh, louder, okay. Quite often it's too loud, but I will speak louder. So I work for SIL International, which stands for Summer Institute of Linguistics. And I will share with you briefly some background to a project which SIL facilitated in Central Sulawesi over a number of years, followed by a little description of the teaching and learning materials which were produced, the key innovations, results and impact, and the recommendations. So this is a map of Indonesia. The left-hand arrow indicates Jakarta, the capital, and the other arrow indicates Sulawesi, and specifically Central Sulawesi, where this project took place. This is a close-up of Sulawesi, and you can see that the two language groups involved were extremely small. The number of speakers of Moma, whose heartland is Kulawi, were 5,500 at the latest available count, and of Tado, the language of Tado, spoken around Lake Lindu, 2,400. Kulawi is a 2-hour drive on good road from the provincial capital, whilst reaching Lindu requires a further 1-hour motorbike drive through the forest. Lindu had neither mobile phone network nor landline connection for the duration of this project, and neither community had email access. And both of these languages were only written down in 2008. Indonesian, the national language of Indonesia, is almost exclusively the language used in formal education. A 2007 SIL survey across both these communities found that those whose childhood language was Moma or Tado achieved a much lower average Indonesian literacy score than those whose childhood language was Indonesian or another local language. The survey also reported a strong desire among both groups to preserve and develop their language and culture. So these findings resulted in advocacy in the communities for the introduction of a mother tongue literacy program, in discussions about suitable program types, and in orthographies being developed for both these languages. Local content is a subject with a 25-year history in the Indonesian national curriculum. It is intended, and I quote, as an educational program whose content and media of delivery are connected to the natural and cultural environments and local needs. That's from the Department of Education and Culture of Indonesia, 1987. The 2006 national curriculum designated 1 to 3 periods per week, that's 35 to 105 minutes per week to the subject, and delegated the design of the course to the local school level. Whilst a full multilingual education program, which would include all the subjects in the mother tongue and a graded teaching of the second language, this would have been preferable, and I want to emphasize that it would have been preferable to do a full multilingual education program. For SIL and our partners to implement such a program in the formal school system would have required years of advocacy at national and regional levels, years of curriculum development and capacity building. Developing mother tongue materials for the local content subject instead met a felt need in local primary schools and was a practical alternative. Thus, from 2008 to 2015, the district departments of education in these two communities, the local communities themselves, and SIL collaborated on a local content program with the modest aims of developing literacy in the local languages and disseminating knowledge of local culture through school reading materials and teacher training. The immediate beneficiaries are around 1,000 years 2 to 6 primary school children in 16 schools where the dominant home language is Moma or Tado, and their local content teachers. The impact is proving far-reaching. So here you can see the progression of the program, and you can see that in each successive year, we work together to produce the school materials for the following year's local content program. And we did this we finished in 2014 with those materials. Local content materials consist of a primer or primer for Primary 2 Semester 1 with an accompanying teacher's guide. And this is aimed at teaching the sounds in these two languages, or in Moma or in Tado, which are different from Indonesian. It still uses the same Roman script as Indonesian. For Primary 2 to Semester 2 to Primary 4, there are storybooks. And I've brought some examples here today. So some storybooks, and most of these are locally authored, with teacher's guides built around the story's themes. So these are the teacher's guides. And for Primary 5 to 6, there are reading texts about regional and national topics of interest related to the local languages or related to the local region, again with theme-based teacher's guides. So here are some from Class 4 and Class 5. A learner-centered approach was used with a focus on communication skills, creativity, and critical thinking. And if any of you here is familiar with the 21st Century Skills Project, that project identified these three skills, creativity, critical thinking, and communication skills, as three of the four key 21st century skills, along with collaboration. And PISA, Program for International Student Assessment 2015, tested these same skills. So I've printed out a list of the stages for which we used in our teacher's guides, which, for instance, in primary grade 4, each unit contained an introduction, a reading text that was differently dealt with according to the unit, and a comprehension check, again, variously dealt with. Then a vocabulary and grammar stage, reading fluency stage, a critical thinking exercise, a clear communication exercise, and finally a language experience story. And in the earlier grades, we've got creativity there as a stage as well. If any of you is interested in reading more about the stages, I have printed out a number of these at the back, and you can just take them from the back table as you leave. I'm going to read to you a clear communication exercise from one of our units, just so you can get a real idea of the kind of thing I'm talking about for local content. This is for grade 5. The theme is buildings, and the specific title of the text is A Rice Granary, which was written by a local person. Students sit in pairs, student A and student B. The teacher explains the following about a role play which they are going to do. Student A will play the role of someone from Lindu who wants to buy some building materials. You will telephone a seller of building materials whom you do not yet know. Student B will play the role of a seller of building materials who is also from Lindu. Before beginning their telephone conversation, each student A writes down what he or she will order from student B. Once student A has written his or her notes, each pair of students starts the role play immediately without waiting for the other pairs to be ready. As they are doing the role play, student B notes down the building materials ordered by student A without looking at student A's notes. Each student also writes down the price which they agree together without looking at what his or her partner has noted down. If there is anything a student does not hear or does not understand, he or she may check his understanding by repeating what he or she thinks was said without looking at the other person's notes. After they have finished the telephone role play, the two students compare their notes about what building materials were ordered and what price was agreed on. If their notes are the same, this means that they have been successful in communicating clearly. The teacher walks around listening to the students and making sure that they are using polite language. If necessary, the teacher may give input to a particular pair or to the whole class. The students discuss whether the language they just used in their role play was formal or informal. Brackets, correct answer, formal language. Formal language is language which is polite or official. Informal language is language which is not used in official situations or language which is used between friends. And finally, students give examples of sentences which can be used between friends and also examples of sentences which can be used between strangers. Now, this is a stage of a teacher's guide which was written together with the local community. And again, I have more examples. If anyone wants to take one of these home, I've got printouts of them by the door. So the key innovation of this program was the introduction of literacy in the mother tongue. To our knowledge, it is rare in Indonesia that the local content subject period is used for teaching the local language, and still, yes, less to teach reading and writing in the local language. In addition, before the program began, a language development team, similar to that which we've heard of in Bangladesh, was appointed by each people group. With guidance from SIL linguists, they then devised an orthography, or a spelling system. The subsequent SIL literacy team, of whom I was part, was dependent on these local teams to edit all local language materials and to train teachers in how to read and write in the local languages, because we didn't speak either Moma or Tado. This was a low-budget program. No local staff were employed to work exclusively on the program, and only modest payments were paid to those who participated in events. The program ran on a simple 4-workshop per year basis, a writer's workshop, a teacher's guide creation workshop, and 2 teacher training workshops. Materials editing meetings were held in the interim without SIL involvement. Monitoring trips, which included teacher observation, were also made to each school. The strong partnership with local people was demonstrated by the involvement of many of them. The District Education Office, local language development teams, around 22 people in total, teacher trainers, there were 5 of those, teachers of primary grades 2 to 6, over 70 of those, story writers, illustrators, teachers' guides, writers, and monitors were all involved. We believe that this has greatly increased the sustainability of this program. So the results and impact. The program is raising local interest in education. The children can understand and are very keen to learn. Hundreds now have incipient literacy in the languages. Some children actually learnt to read this way. One head of school commented, "Their ability to think has improved. I have seen the class myself. It is different from before. I used to teach Sunday school to children from this school, so I know the difference." And we're just going to watch a quick video, if that's okay.
Reynold adalah seorang anak dari desa Tomadu, sebuah desa di pinggir Danau Lindu. Ia seperti layaknya anak-anak di desanya. Namun siapa yang bisa menyangka bahwa anak ini dulunya sulit membaca dan menulis? Saat Reynold masuk ke kelas 2, ia belum memiliki kecakapan dasar bagi seorang anak yang memulai tingkat sekolah dasar. Apabila Reynold tidak menguasai kemampuan ini, maka dapat dipastikan ia akan mengalami hambatan yang sangat besar untuk proses belajarnya. Orang tua dan gurunya memperhatikan hal ini. Karena itu, mereka mencari cara agar Reynold bisa menguasai kemampuan baca dan menulis untuk anak seusianya. Dengan berbekal buku pegangan murid mata pelajaran muatan lokal, Reynold didorong untuk setiap hari belajar membaca dan menulis. Buku ini sangat mudah, karena di sana ada gambar-gambar yang disukai anak, beserta keterangan dalam bahasa Tado dan bahasa Indonesia. Hasilnya, hanya dalam 3 bulan saja, Reynold dapat membaca dan menulis dengan lancar, dan Reynold siap untuk belajar lebih banyak, sama seperti teman-teman seusianya.
Lelona, nabago, lidah nang, yak na bisa no basa, ante no tulisi.
Okay, so Moma and Tado are now used more in all subjects in these schools. Parents approve and are asking for the books to read themselves. The lesson plan format for this subject is now also used in other subjects. Increased pride in local culture is evident. For example, in August 2015, both communities held traditional costume contests for Primary 2, reading contests in the local languages for Primary 3 and 4, and story recitation contests for Primary 5 and 6. And I've got 2 photographs here. This is from the day that we officially launched the program on the 19th of July 2010. And this is from the day we SIL's involvement officially ended because the materials were all produced and distributed. And I'd just like to quickly get some ideas from the audience. Do you have any initial impressions of the difference between this slide and this one? I just hear some thoughts about the difference between this slide and this one. It's the same location. Obviously, one's taken from the back, one's taken from the front. Anybody want to make a comment about any difference you see? A spot the difference activity. Hands up. Yes? Thank you. Yeah, and the second one, local clothing, local dress. Anything else? Right. There's a lot more children in the second one. Yeah? Okay, there were actually a lot more women involved in the second as well. These people in the first one are a lot of them are wearing the official government uniform, whereas in the second one we've got a lot more people in the local costume, including some of the same people that were wearing the official uniform in the first one. Recommendations. Where government policy allows, this is an effective model for introducing mother tongue literacy to a community. Ideally, as I stated before, it should be a forerunner to a mother tongue-based multilingual education program where all subjects, not just one subject, but all subjects in Primary 1 are in the mother tongue with the phased introduction of the national language. However, where this is not possible, future local content programs should start in Primary 1, not Primary 2, where the scripts are the same because children are generally able to cope with literacy in 2 languages at once. Local language development teams must have a good grasp of the rules of their orthography before the program begins. Also, before selecting schools, care must be taken to collect reliable data about the language or languages spoken at home by Primary 1 children, because this tends to change as they move up the school system. This 4 workshops plus monitoring model can be reproduced elsewhere, but to ensure sustainability, the education authorities responsible should provide funding both for the program and for salaries for local content teachers. For quality assurance, regular monitoring visits by technical staff to help teachers with good teaching techniques and to gather feedback are necessary. Thank you for listening.